Germans start the bombing, attacking Poland. The Second World War begins with terror from the sky. Hitler has reconstructed Germany for war and built a military juggernaut too great for Poland to resist.
The Second World War represents one of the most visually documented conflicts in history, with thousands of photographs and films capturing its key events. Many of these images have become universal symbols of this period, immediately evoking the context of the brutal war that lasted until its end in 1945. However, in today's digital information landscape, many other photographs have filtered into public discourse as if they belong to this historical period, driven by misunderstandings, digital editing, or virality on online platforms and forums. For many historians, this little discussed phenomenon not only distorts the historical narrative, but also highlights and emphasizes the value of rigorous research in differentiating between what is real and what is apparent. Today, we will examine and correct 7 photographs that circulate as genuine documents from the Second World War, but actually come from later film productions or modern reconstructions. Before continuing, I want to clarify that most of the revelations you will see today come from the excellent research work of the blog Fake History Hunter, from which I have taken most of these images. If you want to delve deeper into each case with more details and primary sources, you will find the direct link to his site in the video description. Number 7. Hugo Boss and the Nazi uniforms. On social media and history forums, it is common to find these images presented as original Hugo Boss advertisements promoting Third Reich uniforms. The caption claims that the well-known German brand personally designed the black SS garments and Wehrmacht uniforms. However, none of these claims are true. The supposed advertisements are digital montages created from real illustrations, but used out of context. Any attentive observer can detect several obvious anachronisms. Firstly, the text is written in English, which would have been unthinkable in an advertisement aimed at the German market in the 1930s. Secondly, one of the posters mentions a 1934 collection that includes garments introduced years later. But where do these illustrations come from? They belong to the renowned British illustrator Pierre Turner and were originally published in 1980 in the book German Uniforms of the Third Reich, published by Blandford Press. As for Hugo Boss's actual role during the Third Reich, the facts are much more prosaic. Hugo Ferdinand Boss ran a modest workwear factory in Metzingen. From 1928 onwards, he received orders from the Nazi Party to make brown shirts, and later, standard uniforms for the army, navy, and paramilitary organizations. The designs, however, were always provided by the Reich authorities. Boss's company merely mass-produced them. In 1940, with some 250 workers, many of them prisoners of war and forced laborers, it remained a medium-sized firm among the hundreds of workshops supplying the German war effort. In conclusion, Hugo Boss did not design any Nazi uniforms, either in whole or in part. He did produce them under contract, as did dozens of German textile manufacturers at the time, but the aesthetic authorship belonged exclusively to the uniform officers of the party and the armed forces. Number 6. Wojtek, Truth and Myth. Wojtek's story is one of the most unique and endearing of the Second World War. In 1942, soldiers from the 22nd Artillery Supply Company of the 2nd Polish Corps, stationed in Iran, acquired a Syrian brown bear cub. The animal was adopted by the unit, officially enlisted as a private to receive rations and transport, and was even promoted to corporal. Wojtek accompanied the Poles to the Battle of Monte Cassino, where he helped carry ammunition boxes. After the war, he lived at Edinburgh Zoo until his death in 1963. All of this is fully documented and forms part of Poland's historical heritage. However, Wojtek's popularity on the internet has led to a recurring problem: the widespread dissemination of fake or misattributed images. Among the most common are several photographs showing a bear serving in the German army, almost always with Luftwaffe paratroopers. These images circulate accompanied by the claim that they show the real Wojtek fighting on the Axis side, which is not only incorrect, but also deeply offensive to those familiar with the Polish context. But it is not difficult to find the origins of most of these montages, which come from two well-identified sources. The first is from stills and promotional material from Bear, a 2014 German fiction short film directed by Pascal Floerks as his final year project. The film tells the imaginary story of a bear serving in a Fallschirmjäger unit. Some stills from this production were extracted, retouched, and disseminated without context as if they were real images of Wojtek. The second source of these montages comes from authentic photographs of Misha, a large teddy bear placed in 1942 next to a road near Leningrad as an attraction for German soldiers. There are hundreds of snapshots of Misha taken by Wehrmacht troops, and because he was a large and realistic-looking object, some users have mistakenly presented them as evidence of Wojtek on the opposing side. In both cases, the confusion stems from a lack of basic verification. Wojtek never wore a German uniform, nor was he ever near Wehrmacht units. Authentic photographs of the Polish bear with soldiers from Second Corps in Iran, Egypt, Italy and Scotland are numerous and accessible in both Polish and British military archives. Number 5. A female partisan with an Sturmgewehr 44. This photograph has appeared on countless websites and social media platforms accompanied by the following caption: "Female resistance fighter holding a Sturmgewehr 44 captured from a dead German soldier." This statement is incorrect. But in this particular case, the composition is so convincing that at first glance, it looks like a snapshot taken in a forest in Eastern Europe between 1943 and 1945. In addition, the central figure of the young woman contributes decisively to the historical illusion. The scarf tied around her head, her firm and defiant gaze, and the first modern assault rifle in history in her hands give the scene an almost palpable authenticity. Indeed, it is well known that from the end of 1944 onwards, Yugoslav, Soviet and Polish partisans made extensive use of these weapons captured from the enemy as German forces retreated on all fronts. However, a closer look at the assault rifle reveals the ultimate anachronism. The handguard of the rifle is clearly engraved with the logo of American Tactical, a US company founded decades after the war and dedicated to the manufacture and marketing of historical replicas for collectors and reenactors. Obviously, no original Sturmgewehr 44 left the factory with that mark. Now that it has been established that this is a contemporary recreation, it does not take long to locate the author. The photograph was taken in 2012 by American photographer Oleg Volk. The model, who plays the role of a partisan, is called April and regularly poses for historical and weaponry-themed photo shoots. The original image, along with other shots from the same session, some in color that remove any doubt about the period, can be viewed on the photographer's personal blog. What we see, therefore, is not a document of the European resistance during the Second World War, but an excellent artistic recreation made 70 years after the conflict. Number 4. The execution of a deserting German soldier. This black and white photograph showing a German soldier in front of a firing squad is often shared on social media with the claim that it documents the execution of a Wehrmacht deserter by his own comrades during the Second World War. This is another misinterpretation. At first glance, the composition appears overly theatrical. The firing squad is not lined up parallel to the wall, but arranged in a V formation that places the soldier on the left significantly closer to the condemned man. Furthermore, the distance between the rifleman and the wall is so small that in a real execution, there would have been a clear risk of ricocheting bullets. The definitive confirmation comes when the original source is located. The image is a still from a West German film entitled Kirmes, or The Fair in English, directed by Wolfgang Stauter and released in 1960. The film tells the story of a young Wehrmacht deserter who in the last days of the war seeks refuge in his hometown but ends up being executed by an improvised firing squad. Years later, during the construction of a fair, his skeleton is discovered. The execution scene appears at exactly 11:47 minutes into the film and is part of a sequence designed to highlight the drama and arbitrariness of the executions in 1945. For those who want to explore in greater detail this terminal and chaotic phase of the war as seen from the German side, I suggest my video about Willi Herold, the 19-year-old boy who, dressed in a stolen Luftwaffe captain's uniform, ordered arbitrary executions without trial against deserters and alleged looters in 1945. Returning to the subject, Kirmes was one of the first post-war German productions to openly address the issue of desertion and Nazi military tribunals. Although it is based on real historical events, it is estimated that between 15,000 and 20,000 German soldiers were executed for desertion. The image in question belongs to the realm of cinematic fiction, not documentary archive. Number 3. A sniper falling from a tower. This photograph showing a soldier falling from a tower after being hit has been widely circulated on the internet with the following description. The exact moment an Axis sniper is shot down and falls from a tower during a battle in Italy. The claim is false. A careful analysis reveals several clues that are incompatible with a real combat shot. The body does not fall inertly, but in a controlled posture that ensures a landing on its back, typical of stunt falls. In addition, the exact point of impact is hidden by debris, a common technique in cinema to conceal mattresses, boxes, or in later productions, airbags. The absence of this supposedly sensational image in any military archive, war press, or specialized book on the Italian front is equally revealing. And here is its true origin. It comes from a still from the 1958 American film Darby's Rangers, directed by William Wellman and starring James Garner. The man performing the fall is one of the most renowned stuntmen of the time, probably Dick Crockett or Bob Heron. The complete scene appears at 5:36 in a clip from the film posted by Warner Bros. Classics on its YouTube channel, where the sequence of the man falling from the top of the tower can be verified. Darby's Rangers was one of many Hollywood productions in the late 1950s that recreated real operations from the Second World War. Therefore, what we see is not a sniper killed in combat, but a carefully rehearsed stunt for the big screen filmed 14 years after the end of the war. Number 2. The Crying Young Soldier. This is one of the most famous images that has been passed off as authentic from the Second World War. It shows a teenager crying inconsolably while another soldier tries to calm him down, and is often shared with the following caption: "Child soldiers of the Volkssturm, or the last German units in April 1945, terrified by the Allied advance." However, the photograph is not from any military archive or war correspondent. It is actually a still from the German film Die Brücke, directed by Bernhard Wicki and released in 1959. Considered one of the masterpieces of German anti-war cinema, it is based on the real experience of the writer Gregor Dorfmeister, who at the age of 16 was drafted into the Volkssturm in the last days of the Third Reich. The scene in which a young soldier completely breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably and wetting himself in terror while his comrades desperately try to hold him and calm him, comes near the end of the film. The boy having the breakdown is Klaus Hager, played by Volker Lechtenbrink. It forms part of the harrowing climax in which 7 16-year-old schoolboys from a small Bavarian town, hastily conscripted in the final days of the war, pointlessly defend a bridge of no strategic importance as American tanks roll towards them. Die Brücke was shot 14 years after the war ended, using teenage actors and an extraordinarily detailed reconstruction, which accounts for its almost unbearable realism. However, it is a cinematic recreation, so the famous image of the young soldier crying, as shocking and authentic as it may seem, is not a real document from 1945. Number 1. The BDM Girls Who Never Were. This photograph, which shows a group of young women wearing sports shirts emblazoned with the Third Reich's Imperial Eagle emblem while an instructor inspects them, is often shared as an authentic image of the Bund Deutscher Mädel, the League of German Girls, the female branch of the Nazi Party's youth movement. But the image and the original scene doesn't come from any official archive or contemporary press agency. It's actually a still from the 1958 German comedy drama Blitzmädels an die Front, directed by Werner Klingler. The film is a serious and unflinching war drama that recreates the mobilization of the female signals auxiliaries of the Luftwaffe, known as Blitzmädel, during the final months of the war. But how did this image come to be mistaken for an authentic Second World War photograph? Originally, the still appeared online bearing a discrete watermark with the film's title. Once that watermark was cropped away, the picture began circulating widely as what many believed to be a genuine 1940s document, and the confusion is hardly surprising. The film was shot just 13 years after the war ended, using uniforms and locations of remarkable historical accuracy, and was written by a man who had lived through the conflict himself. Yet, for all its fidelity, it remains a meticulously crafted cinematic reconstruction made in 1958, not an original photograph taken between 1939 and 1945. So when this image reappears on social media or in publications, you will know its true origin.
Wir sind des Geiers schwarzer Haufen.
This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
That's the tale of a Europe in turmoil.
Upon this battle depends the survival of civilization.